Hey, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to share a trade breakdown of KTTA. This was my favorite play for today, and I want to go ahead and review it. First off, let's go ahead and look at the daily chart because we want to see the story of the stock and any previous movement. So it had gone up just a couple of days ago, a week ago, and just got stuffed right back down. And it was at a support level right over here. I looked at the market cap, which is, now it's 4.7 million. Stock is up 60%, so it's very small market cap. It's got 48 million volume on the day, which is great news. And it's got a free float of 740,000. So that float is going to be the total number of shares that are available for trading. Typically, we like to see stocks that are under 5 to 10 million. Anything under 1 million usually is going to have a lot of eyes on it. We've seen a lot of stocks that are moving in the market are in these nano floats with news. And also, the other thing that is essential for me to want to take this trade is that it had news this morning. Not just news, and obviously we can see that the sentiment analysis is positive. However, this is also news that sent the stock up. We want to wait. The method that we're trading is based on seeing market activity and reacting to it instead of just trying to interpret the news ourselves, because you can have the best news in the world, but it's totally dependent upon how that's interpreted. So we can see that shares of this company rose 77% on positive early stage data from cancer drug. Now, typically when we're seeing early stage data, sometimes it can be, newsworthy in a way that is helpful for the stock the entire day. Really, when we start to see later stage data and this type of analysis over time, when the company is either getting close to potential FDA approval or licensing agreements, which you can have much larger biotech companies want to pay substantial amounts for that, and also that can send stocks. But so we wanted to kind of wait and see on this because this is early stage data, but it's showing a rise on positive data for their cancer treatment. So you can take a look at this article a little bit more. This is for neurofibromatosis type 1, other cancer indications. I think it's also important to see, how many patients are being, tested in this, so that we have more more data to work with instead of it just being like 5 people. But it doesn't look like it says how many people were in the study, and there were 2 cohorts of patients. Yada yada yada. No treatment-related adverse events or dose-limiting toxicities were observed to date in the first 2 dosings. This was shown to be well tolerated. So all in all, pretty solid news. And they're also going to be initiating another cohort, so there could be further news after that. So this is a stock that is already having positive news. The market's responding well, and there may even be potential future news about what the data is for the third cohort. Either way, we care about the market activity today. So I want to go ahead and take a look at this stock in pre-market. Also, for now, I just want to go ahead and show you just the raw price action, so we're not looking at all of this other information. So you can see this is where the stock had news at 7 o'clock this morning and then continued to rise. And I was not trading this because the method that we trade is dependent upon seeing red candles before a breakout and the positioning of them. So we're not really seeing any of that. There's this red candle, however, there was a wick up here, so that I don't find to be valid. And then we have these wicking candles. This is delayed price data. Webull unfortunately has a lot of this kind of information, which can be very tricky in interpreting the stock. However, I was watching this stock during pre-market, and it basically was holding the $6 level. So this is all false information. And then we can see here there's another breakout because we had this 656, 657 level was holding, and then we see a breakout up to 682 here. So I can see the previous red candle before this breakout before is this level. It's kind of these candles both kind of work, and we can see that now we have this bullish engulfing candle where it overtook those previous candles. So we're going to go ahead and draw a box here. And then, because also we want to look at this without much bias so that we're not looking at how the market already responded, but instead where we have zones so we can play off of them during market open. So now looks like we have another breakout where we beat the 682 level and we go all the way up. This is now market open, but to 749. So I don't consider this one a demand zone because first off, there's already previously a huge green candle. So my appetite for getting a win off of that is a little bit smaller. Instead, I'm going to look at the zone underneath it where it's more clear cut. Plus, this green candle afterwards did not engulf this one. Instead, what I like is this candle because we have a huge bullish engulfing candle here, and then these continue to rise up with increasing momentum. So I am going to draw another zone here from about 650 up to 670, which also I like the size of this because I don't like my demand zones to be greater than usually about 7 or 8%. And if we look at this price range, this is only 3%, so it's perfect. So I was setting up my orders during pre-market for orders from 650 to 670 with increasing amount of shares as I went lower. I had orders set up 656, 651, 664, because I also like where these two meet right here, this red candle and this red candle at the bodies. And then I also had some at 670, a little bit at 672, just to keep it over the demand zone, just in case it was going to like quickly wick down, touch the top of it, and go back up. So I had about 4 or 5 orders set. And then we can see here, we triggered 3 of them because this came down to 663. And it was a huge move back up. We can see in just 5 minutes that we have a range now of 12%. So that is typically going to be my favorite way to trade this method because I like to see that first bounce into the demand zone and then increasing buying pressure right back up. And I'm never trying to target above the previous high because typically it can just be like a knee-jerk response to it. And then we're just catching shorts, people selling their shares, panic selling off sides, and we're taking that move back up. This is also something I can't recommend enough, to never buy these stocks unless you've already drawn your demand zones and you have your orders set within the zone. That is going to help you just stay on task with capitalizing on entries within those zones. You can always add, like I did, one a little bit above that, which is less shares. If I have 50 shares of a stock that's 672 and it goes down to 650, that's like $11 for me, which like I can tolerate. I'm not gonna put 500 shares in because I don't want a potential, I don't want I don't want this to go down to like $110. So I would have a smaller amount of shares here, 50 shares or so, 100, 200, 300, 400, just for example's sake of like what it could look like for you, how you ladder those bids and you create the best average for yourself before that move back up. And then you could start trimming and scaling out over here. So I like that. Yes, it did come down further, and you can go ahead and test it out, maybe with less shares, so that you are not risking your profits if you want to go ahead and play this. For me, I didn't. I am making more strict rules for myself of just trading off of the initial first bounce. However, there was a lot of options. Now, what I was looking at after this was moves into this previous zone, the first one that we drew, from 607 down to 620. And as the day goes on, I typically am going to look for less profit targets. I typically recommend, at least what I do is like I'll start trimming at 3%, 5%, 10%. This, I may be trimming most of my shares at 3% and 5%. Looking for smaller, quick moves as volume starts to dry out later in the day. So I had my order set at a little bit at the 622 mark. I had a decent chunk at 615. I had orders at 611 and then down to 608. So we can see here stock came down to that lowest price and then made its move up to, I think it was 648. So here's where I also will look at the EMAs now, because I want to see how the price tells the story through these moving averages, which are going to kind of give you more of a line-based analysis of the average of the price after the previous, if we're looking at an 80 EMA, previous 8 bars. Red is 21. So I will use these as my resistance points where I want to be selling the shares. So my average was around like 618 from my buys. And actually, I'm sorry. No, it was actually right around, it was at 614. And I was looking for, that, like I said, 3 and 5% move. And we got it because I had my order set just underneath that EMA. And I was able to capitalize on a second move, a smaller win on this one. So this was an A+ setup. I really loved how this one looked, and I wanted to just show you a couple of ways that you can capitalize on it and make trades that'll take this one about 5 minutes to play out fully for a potential 12% gain, and this one was a little bit longer from 10:35 to 10:50, so 15 minutes, potential 5% move. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy trading.